All right, guys, so let's talk about the case for Google actually being set up for a crash in terms of stock price. There's a lot more nuance there than you would expect, and I actually found it was honestly a great conversation between a couple of Wall Street guys in regards to Google stock, some of the good, some of the bads. It actually involved a bunch of other stocks as well. Disney got thrown in there, a lot of other stocks like that. You could even apply this to cable companies. A lot of different discussions happened within this actually very brief, short period of time that actually gave us a lot of insight into is, Google actually in trouble or not in regards to stock price. And of course, that will obviously help us determine should we be adding to it or should we be fearful to the stock, as it's obviously going to trade down short term in regards to what's going on with the stock right now. But check out the pinned comment down there for the new channel where we talk about finance, entrepreneurship, basically building up your wealth overall, a lot of other topics like that. So that's the first pinned comment down there. I appreciate your support over there as well. All right, let's get into it with these Wall Street guys.
We're talking Google Alphabet. Shares are up nearly 50% so far on the year. Kevin, when you look at this stock, the behemoth in search, they've got the Department of Justice breathing down their neck. The trial that's going on right now. DuckDuckGo's CEO came out yesterday with some commentary during testimony how Google's basically squashing any type of competitive practices with, the payments that they give to Apple and some of the others to make their search engine the default engine.
So I have to be careful the way I say this, but Google has really good lawyers. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
All right. So
yeah, great point right there. Most of the time, these complaints brought against large tech companies like this go nowhere in the end. The law is, U.S. lawmakers don't make great laws, and a team of multi-million-dollar lawyers and law firms working for Google is going to outdo the federal prosecutors, and most likely going to, not all cases, most likely going to outdo those federal prosecutors who are pursuing a lot of these cases almost as much for political reasons to show that they're doing something and they're trying to stop big tech or do their job or whatever the case is. But they usually don't have the teeth in regards to the law to actually hold them accountable to anything, long term or, in terms of any sort of litigation. A lot of times they just do that, they give them a fine and then they move on and nothing changes. It's silliness at that stage. But that's kind of the way that the law works. So for me, he's absolutely right in regards to the lawyers. And that's true with all big, large tech companies. Their lawyers are just, I don't know, they have teams of multi-million-dollar lawyers. They have the best of the best in regards to law teams. And more importantly, the laws are written to where they're able to wiggle their way out of a lot of the laws that exist.
Any fight that they're in with the government, they're going to be well armed to fight that. But Google, if you're looking at the price of the stock and things that aren't like loud and flashy, look at this. Digital ad spend. Right? If the economy stays out of recession and digital ad spend goes on its normal path and gets better, they benefit enormously, right? The cloud is getting better. YouTube is getting better. All those things are getting better, but it's digital ad spend.
Right.
If we go into recession, that'll slow down. That'll hurt this stock. If we don't, that'll get better. That'll help this stock.
Yeah, the economy's been doing better. Remember, everybody, and we talked about this on the show multiple times, where everybody thought digital ad spend was going to start to crater in the middle to late part of 2023, and it hasn't. It's remained resilient. That's their bread and butter, Alan.
Yep. See, right there was, you guys remember when Google was in the 80s and we were screaming buy, 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 buy. That right there was the narrative. Oh, ad spend, it hadn't slowed down yet, but it's going to slow down next year, right? And it's always next year, always coming, always going to happen. And although I agree at some point in time it is going to slow, obviously with the rates being as restrictive as they are, you're going to see a slowing economy. But how much does it slow? And more importantly, is Wall Street going to do what Wall Street always does and overreact to that slowdown? So that's not unusual. That's very, very normal in this sort of an environment to kind of think, hey, maybe we'll see something with the Fed rate hikes finally hitting us later on. But right now, if you waited last year because you thought it was going to get worse this year, you're paying $130 per share. And do you honestly think we're going to see in the 80s again, regardless of what sort of recession we have, if any, in the future? Let's just say next year, for example, because the rates are restrictive. Is it going to be bad enough to where it's going to push Google all the way back down to $80 per share? That's kind of something you have to think about there.
When you look at this stock, just off of 52-week highs here, slipping this week a little bit with the overall market. What's your take?
Well, one thing when it comes to a company like DuckDuckGo, if you're Alphabet, you welcome DuckDuckGo because the more DuckDuckGos that are out there, Bing, whatever it may be, the less you're getting called a monopoly. And let's be honest, I mean, as close to an active monopoly that we have in a competitive marketplace that we encounter on a day-to-day basis is probably Google. I don't think of other search engines. I don't describe search engines as search engines. I describe them as Googling things. So they welcome the competition, especially with it not being a Microsoft. They'd much rather, battle a smaller company than battle Microsoft head-to-head on anything.
And I think that right there is a great point that, of course, every big company would much rather compete against small companies or eventually buy them out or whatever the case is, whatever they choose to do. But right there, you think about just how are you going to prove Google has a monopoly when, Bing and ChatGTP being mixed in with Bing now is the quote unquote hot thing. Yes, it's not taking away, and I didn't think it was going to take away much from Google, but in regards to having a true monopoly and meeting a lot of the thresholds for that, because Bing is large enough that it absolutely, you can't have a monopoly at that stage because Bing is large enough. Microsoft is large enough, and there's a lot of arguments to be made within that in regards to that. Now, that doesn't mean that Google's not the dominant player. They absolutely are. I absolutely think the search engine is the best too. We all say, hey, Google that. We don't say search for it. We don't say Bing for it. We say Google it. But that doesn't mean just because it's part of the lexicon of, the modern day society today does not mean it's a monopoly in terms of a legal definition of a monopoly in regards to what the government's pursuing there. So it's kind of something to keep in mind there.
This is a company that's got a very, very strong position. And we're seeing the power of the NFL as well with Sunday NFL Ticket being tied to YouTube TV. They bought their way into one of the biggest marketplaces on the planet. That's going to be very, very interesting to see the trajectory of that. We know that traditional linear cable TV has been disrupted greatly. YouTube TV has firmly inserted itself as the probably premier alternative to traditional cable. Oh, and there's that added kicker that if you want to watch every NFL game, sign up here.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. I think they're going to touch on it here a little bit more. That right there, to me, when I'm thinking about Google's future, and you're thinking about traditional cable is dying. We all know that. And I think they're going to touch on this a little bit more here. But the huge opportunity for Google, the game-changing, the ability to not just take them on their current growth trajectory, but future huge moves in their future of the company itself, it's this opportunity right here. It's this switching from people going from cable to something like a YouTube TV instead in regards to their daily viewing, watching habits. Our viewing habits are not going down. They're increasing. We're wanting more content, more things, and moving away from cable in order to get those things. So YouTube is obviously taking an active prime position in regards to, hey, yes, we got Google search, we got ad spend over here, but we're also into this other market as well with YouTube TV that is just now kind of at the beginning of that growth curve. And that's absolutely, to me, could be a future huge catalyst for huge moves with Google.
YouTube TV has actually expanded a little bit. It's become the next cable, basically, is what it is. You're paying like, what, $50 a month for?
A little more than that, I think.
Believe me, it's not if now, it's just when that it takes over linear TV. That's why, think about this. A lot of news this week on Fox and what's going on. Fox sold Disney all their linear TV things other than live news and sports.
Yeah.
Disney is now like hemorrhaging because of that. That is going to turn out in history to be one of the great sales of all time because as we move closer and closer, and now Disney wants to dump almost all linear TV. It's incredible. So, and the move towards streaming is just, it's picking up pace. And the advertisers are going to streaming. So they're going to do extremely well long term, but they got to get profitable. All these streamers got to get profitable.
Yep, and you see right there the future, money starting to flow that direction. You've seen that. Again, it's a slow moving iceberg per se. It's not a fast moving jet ski. It's an iceberg moving, and the money's going to slowly, melt off of one and create a new iceberg over here in regards to the streaming side of the house. So there's plenty of time there. It's not going to happen this week, next year. Lots and lots of time for it to get there, but it's absolutely moving in that direction.
This too, Disney was just in a battle with Charter because they're trying to sell it all at once, and people they were like, "Hey, our customers only want to buy they only want to watch ESPN and occasional sporting events for the most part. They don't want Disney Channel. They don't want these other things." That goes right to the heart of what Kevin's saying. But of course, Monday Night Football comes around, they get a deal done.
Yes, that's right. That's right. They're showing it on ESPN and ABC now.
All right. So in regards to Google, is it going to crash down? Do I think they're going to have a significant crash? The answer to, in my opinion, is no. I don't think we're going to see a significant crash down. We got that last year. We got Google in the 80s. Not going to see that again, in my opinion. Of course, if we do, I will happily be buying it because Google is a great long-term company, one of the best, top 5 companies out there. So I would see no reason not to buy Google at that stage. Could I see it trading down for the next 6 months, next year? Yeah, absolutely I could. Not only do I think we're going to see a slowdown in the economy, which of course means ad spend is going to go down. Once you kind of get stuck with this eternal fight with the government, which of course it seems to take forever for you to get all the way through all the different trials and motions and everything else and finally get to a decision. And even if they lose, it just becomes a fine. The point being, during that time, your stock, there's just a lot of caution among Wall Street. They kind of get busy. They look at other things. And so you're just no longer the favorite anymore until you kind of get out of that doghouse. Meta went through that for years. It felt like Apple went through that a few years ago. Microsoft's been through it in the past few years. So it's not uncommon, just until you kind of work your way through it, you just kind of stagnate. And of course, if we do see a slowdown in ad spend and such, that right there is to me where you see those big inflection points down. Under 100 could be possible. Who knows? I don't really have any interest in making short-term predictions in regards to stock price. All I know is I'm going to be watching the earnings carefully to see, are they seeing that slowdown or not? And are some of the future things that they have. As a matter of fact, that is actually the best case scenario, is that Wall Street trades it down for the next 6 months while they kind of work through all this sort of stuff. We see ad spend slow, not to crazy points, but of course, in typical media fashion, I'm sure YouTube fashion, people will freak out and say, it's the end of the world for Google. See, we told you so. Whatever the case is, cool. So we get some nice discounts on Google in the short term. Long term, as it was kind of pointed out in this video, and that's kind of the reason why I really wanted to show it to you guys, is there's a lot of opportunity long term in regards to this stock if you're willing to kind of weather the storm. And to me, this is kind of a mini storm. This isn't a giant storm. This isn't crazy out of control storm. This is just kind of a mini storm in regards to, hey, got everybody, it seems like every big tech, gets into the FTC crosshairs or the government crosshairs every once in a while. You got that. And then of course, you're going to have probably, some slowing advertising spend in the meantime. That right there is kind of a double whammy for a real crazy narrative. But for me, short term, sure, issues. Long term, to me, that future is really bright. And this sets up perfectly, if things fall out this way, for us to be able to build out even larger Google positions and take advantage of that tailwind that's going to come once they work through all this. And remember, if you want to see all my buys and more analysis on Google in my group, make sure you check out the pinned comment down there and see if a membership's right for you. We got 5 free courses. We got a stock analyzer tool you can use. We got the best 6, 7, and 8-figure Discord out there. I put out 3, 4, 5 videos a week to the group that just are exclusive to the group. They don't get posted anywhere else. You can slide into my DMs anytime. Jump on our Q&As. Ask me any questions you want. I always answer every question that I receive, whether it's in the Discord, in the Q&A, in my DMs, whatever the case is. I answer them all, so check it out down there and see if it's right for you. And click this video here if you want to see exactly what I'm buying in this market. And click here to see my exact plan for this market. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.